you back, you're trapping them in that zone.
So here we have picks and bans going. Look who's on the ban list first. Who would have thought?
Oh, and it's TSM who had the first pick. So they're almost saving Cloud9 a ban. I'm a little interested as to why Dyrus would want Reginald to ban that, just because I would expect TSM to want that as a first pick threat.
I'm really interested into why they just banned Caitlyn, if that's a lane they want to crush with their duos, or if they're giving their solo laner an easier time in the 2v1 they're going to be put in.
Well, here's the thing we have to remember. Wild Turtle was on Cloud9 with Lemon Nation before he joined TSM last split. And this is probably a total respect ban for Wild Turtle. Lemon knowing Wild Turtle, there's something about Wild Turtle's Caitlyn that Lemon is not willing to deal with, and that's why they threw the ban out.
See what they can do with this one. They did play Vayne last time. We'll have to see. The Twisted Fate is out. Reginald chooses to have the team ban that one out for themselves. We saw him playing it yesterday, and he did quite well with it. Definitely had the cards he needed, learning from the double lift trick.
And even though it's still really early, he did double lift for 2 gold cards right there. But knowing this, TSM is losing the banning phase right now because they're banning out all of the champions that Cloud9 should have to ban out. Those are all champions that TSM has done well with in the past. Rumble and Jace are things that Reginald could play. Twisted Fate is things that Reginald could play. But they're banning out this stuff because they don't want enough to get back to Cloud9. I don't think it's enough.
Wow. They just took 2 heavy-duty, not assassins, 1 assassin and 1 guy that will eventually assassinate
They took some deeps.
the big deeps. So a Ryze and a Zed picked up, so some high favorites being locked in there.
Looks like we're going to see balls on Ryze, and then the Zed for high. Lanes don't necessarily matter for them right now, but that's the things they played in the past. And I really wonder if Wild Turtle is going to go with a Vayne as an AD carry this game because of how much these teams have practiced against each other, how much knowledge they potentially share, and if they think it's a counter, because Wild Turtle has had some decent Vayne games in the past.
Now, if any, what kind of advantage is showing that much damage right in the beginning? Is like, because you can just put utility behind this from whatever you start to see. Is that kind of an advantage, or are you saying, if you guys can dodge my assassination and cleanse enough, you're fine?
I think it gives you a little bit of flexibility, and it means if TSM wants to have a lot of teamfight control, they might be able to fit it in. And it also means that the next 3 picks for Cloud9 are going to have a lot of utility in them. Unless they want to go with one of those unconventional compositions we've seen where teams run low amounts of initiation and just try to
all power
split push without diving, but that's not the way Cloud9 rolls.
Dyrus getting onto his Renekton coming into this one. Always an impactful play from Dyrus when he's on Renekton. He may have a hard lane, but he always bounces back at least to be a brute in the fights and really allow the team to get at least a few more wins in. So it's always good to have him there.
I think it's going to be a pretty tough matchup if he has to play against Ryze, though. He'll have to use both his Slice and his Dice to get any harass onto him, which will leave him very vulnerable to ganks that Meteos would throw down. I expect Meteos to go with either a Zac or a Nasus here.
Still have the bottom lane. They played it last time. The quickest to lock in, Zyra Ashe.
Well, we did mention Cloud9 showed damage, and they're going to then want to pick up a lot of utility. So that is the most utility, maybe a little bit of utility they just picked up with Ashe Zyra. The best lockdown combo you bring bottom lane there. They've done so much work with that lane in the past. Four wins in a row with that combo.
Yeah.
5 wins in a row with Ashe. Really good stuff.
And that combination in general, you know, Kobe likes to talk a lot how they use hawk shot instead of a lot of wards to keep themselves safe. So the income of money as well. Zyra plants. So we see Twitch, a huge resurgence lately. Really, the ability to assassinate somebody has becoming very high priority in League of Legends lately.
And Wild Turtle had that beautiful quadra kill at the end of the game as well. After having 1 kill the entire game, quadra right at the end. That's the thing you're going to need to close the distance on that much teamfight utility if you can survive late on in this game. It's the right pick for Wild Turtle at this point.
This will be quite interesting. We are looking for the jungler, and as I say this, they're probably going to pick one. But after multiple games of Zac Jarvan in a row, neither of them are even on the board right now. So we can see how the teams, you know, see that things are working, but still have their own ideas in mind.
I think Meteos has complete freedom over what jungler he wants to pick right now. This could even be an opportunity to pick something he hasn't played a lot of, but they already had enough lockdown. Why not just go with Zac? We called it earlier. It just decided to, if you're not going to take it away from me, I might as well do it.
Absolutely. It keeps up the KDA. He obviously loves the Cell division. We've said over and over he played it for the first 5 games that Cloud9 went 5-0 in the week 1 of the summer split. So no stranger for Meteos. We are going to see what lane he decides to focus that with, and usually it's the one to soak up more minions. Yeah,
the only difference that you see in Meteos' playstyle when he's on Zac or when he's on Nasus is how much and how willing he is into just going to 3v1 lanes. when he's on Zach, he's actually more likely to go for kills instead of just straight up turret pushing. And especially when they go with Zyra Ashe, they're always just pushed up in the lane. So we might see a little bit of counter ganking there as well.
I'm really interested to see how this game comes in with Orianna being on Reginald, or Reginald using Orianna. It's going to be the factor of you have so much more control. You can really tell people to keep going in the fight more than just being the AP that's going to do damage as well. You're like, no, my shield's on you. Keep going in the fight. So those calls are going to be even more important. It's
fitting for Reginald that all of Orianna's skills start with command, because then Reginald can really tell people where to go. It's like, command, protect wild turtle. Yeah, I think that's good.
Locking them all down, and it's good too. You get the invisible turtle coming in and rocking out the damage. So we see these teams locked in. Nobody really has that we're going for late game. Everybody's got a bit of power in late, a bit of power in the mid, and the ability to go aggressive in the early. So it's well-rounded for these guys. We're going to see some long team fights, I think.
And we should hope that this game has some potentially early game fighters, because they have the 2 shortest average game times. TSM averages 34 minutes and 49 seconds. Cloud9 second at 35 minutes and 2 seconds. Maybe it's going to be a 35-ish minute game.
Yep.
We'll see, though.
And we know that Cloud9 is paying these guys a bit more respect. Yesterday's interview with Sneaky, he said, I'm happy to see that Cloud9 is coming back and getting their momentum going. So we'll see if that respect comes into play here in this invasion of the game. If it happens, Cloud9 versus Team Solomid, our 3rd game of the day, is underway.
We talk about this being so much business as well as friendship, but these two teams are friends with each other, and they want themselves to be the 2 top teams in North America together. So obviously that's all thrown out the window here, because both teams just want to win, but they want each other to exceed as well.
Red pot starts coming out for both, or I shouldn't say both, the top lane Dyrus, and coming in for high in the mid lane. So we'll see some early game aggression there. Reginald, we'll have to see what he levels, because it's not easy to all in an Orianna right away at level 2.
No, Reggie's going to have a whole bunch of farming to do early on in this game, and the lane decisions haven't necessarily been made. High and balls have a lot of freedom about where they go, but in an ideal world, we have balls laning against Dyrus and Zed laning against Orianna.
It looks like
that's an ideal world for Cloud9,
right?
not
Absolutely,
for TSM.
Absolutely, Cloud9 is trying to put, not trying to put, but it looks like they may transfer Sneaky and Elimination towards that top lane. That's where the entire team hovers for the ward placement, and you can see that TSM is privy to that knowledge. So they go ahead and do their own thing towards blue, and they may skip out on this Wraith ward. Wow.
Oh, there was a ping. They're at least suspecting
that
that's where TSM went, but they're guessing a couple different places. They pinged exactly where TSM was, and then they also pinged their own blue buff, which they may have just pinged to say ward this. Not entirely sure.
They still haven't walked into that exit. They came up around it for a quick second. These teams are kind of blind right now, except for that blue bush ward. You see Cloud9 here, Elimination on your screen. You can see where they're positioning as they're playing a little Fog of War trick. Same thing with TSM. And now they open it up with a huge group of people. So they're making sure power in numbers. And it looks like Dyrus may be facing off as we get the ADs in the mid lane.
Alrighty then. So these are actually the lanes that, the long way of finding the lanes that TSM wants, because they don't want to have Renekton have to lane against Ryze. And they also didn't want Reginald in a 1v2, so this could actually be a bad thing. He gets caught.
Reggie gets level 1 shield, so he's not going to be doing much outside that turret range for a bit. Seeing Meteos grabbing up on his red. Dyrus taking some damage as high, and him trading in lane pretty even. We'll see how this level 2 factors in with the red pots.
Yeah, and Dyrus had actually taken his stun at level 1, hoping that High closed the distance and tried to fight him, almost as a defensive mechanism. Dyrus doesn't want to shove that lane early.
Top lane pressure already, and Reginald has not really been able to be in lane. He's coming back still. Only on the original buy. That back was only for HP for himself, and now as he gets the lane, it's going to be 3v1.
He actually just bought a couple of health potions because he knew more. He may as well. He wasn't going to be doing anything. He's giving up the turret regardless, and we're seeing again the 3-man trade for the 3rd time today.
Looks like they not even doing anything in the bottom lane. Didn't see how Balls got pressured out of that. Looks like he made it out clean. He did get, or he does have a few more potions himself. And these turrets going down a little slow with the level 2 damage.
They'll get him there.
They'll get him.
I feel like they'll get him. We've seen this before. I'm confident in making this prediction that the turrets will indeed fall.
As they both back off. So 3.5 minutes, it's starting to be about that time when everybody gets the 150 global gold coming in. They're relying on it at this point. So it's going to be weird when they don't between these two teams in the game. So High looks like he is getting a little bit more push on the lane. He is trying to keep Dyrus at the turret, but Dyrus, or Renekton rather, not too bad at last hitting it.
And here's where it may or may not get fun. Are these guys going to continue pushing? The cannon minion is missing for both of these waves right now, so these minions won't tank for as long, but we could see a double turret trade because neither of these teams have sent support for their solo laner.
History really repeating itself here
Ball
for today.
seems okay with it.
Reginald's level 1 still. Oh, this is painful right now. It is still level 1 balls as well, too. So they're just chilling right now. This is really going to be interesting to see how they play this game and come back. Reginald just hits level 2. Ball's still level 1, but he's on the verge. So just crazy right now.
I wonder when it's going to stop. Right now, Cloud9 has sent High back to at least tell TSM, you guys got to stop at some point. Cloud9 took one more wave to take out that second turret, but they're really just trading gold. Once you get the first turret in that lane, the second one doesn't give you that much more benefit.
Oh, they do. Second turret, so they're not going to push anymore. The Dragon coming off of this now at 5 minutes into the game. This is a bit accelerated.
Just a little bit. There's a couple objectives that have just fallen. I'd say, so that thing about TSM, they got 750 from each turret and 975 for that Dragon. So that's nearly 2,500 gold in objectives that they just picked up right there. Cloud9 sitting at 1,500 gold in objectives.
And now the mid?
And now they're pushing mid.
Oh my gosh.
These guys are going to be knocking on the doors in the inhibitors in like 64 seconds more.
This is an absolutely awesome game. Lemonation taking a bit, grasping root aggro there as he tries to lock down Reginald. Reginald's just like, let me soak up some experience, please. I don't even want the CS. I'd like it, but I'll take experience right now.
Dyrus already afforded a brutalizer. Because think of him in the 1v1 lane. That's the people who are actually able to farm the most were the mid laners, which are High and Dyrus in this game. Yep. 1,900 gold, 5.5 minutes in. That's equivalent to having a kill or two at this point. So, good start for them, I suppose.
And really, it has been aggressive, but only towards the objectives. We're saying there are no kills here. Everybody's kind of giving each other their own personal bubble within those pushes.
Now Reginald and Balls get to catch up a little bit. They're freezing as best they can. These lanes will push back since they do have the cannon minion in them, the waves as much as possible, and this is just some really strange positioning. High may be getting himself in a little bit of trouble pushing up this far.
And you can see how they played it. They said, Reggie, don't take mid. AD carry support's going to go there. Take the minion waves that keep flooding into the bottom or the top lane because it's too dangerous here.
And I like for Cloud9 that High is the one who gets the most farm because we talked about the playstyles before in our featured matchup between Reginald and High. And Reginald needs to get a lot of farm because he loves to fight people. But High, he'll get the farm anyway with split pushing. It's just if nobody can 1v1 him, his split pushing becomes unstoppable. And since he was the highest farming member of his team during all the early game, it's a great start for that strategy.
And the way this is working out with Dragon being down, Reginald getting a lot more harassment than Balls is. It's accounted for 26 to 18 CS, but he has an entire turret that he's going to have to draw some aggro down with, which Cloud9 can start to work with.
Cloud9 is trying to out-farm to make up for the Dragon being down. That's the extra pressure they put on Reginald is one of the reasons TSM was able to take the Dragon, aside from TSM just being on that side of the map and taking it after the two turrets. See how it works out.
The pink ward not yet placed down for High. Definitely you can see Reginald, or rather Dyrus actually just popped on that red pot. It looks like he's going for balls here. Very low mana. He's going to have that bounce from Meteos. Flashes that. Actually, Dyrus was low health there, and he could have gone down in the trade.
Dyrus was very scared of Meteos coming down there. I don't think he recognized if Meteos was level 5 or level 6 right away, because level 5 Zac would not have been able to kill Dyrus, but a level 6 Zac could have, which is why he flashed away.
No surprise that Balls makes a mistake, but able to get himself out. He just makes that kind of play. It's like being in a bad situation in a car. You always give yourself a good out. Aim in the right direction. 1,000 gold in the lead for Team Solomid here. They found that just really, like we said, by most of this farming, keeping themselves pressured here. It's High going towards the top lane to again pressure Reginald. Still, Balls not finding any of that pressure.
And that was a really great pink ward that High placed on his way towards the top lane. It's strange calling it the top lane since they're at the bottom of the map right now. Yeah. But this denies Reginald safety, and it's the reason Dyrus has had to go down there to allow Reginald to just kind of go hide.
Sneaky really likes that double Dorans coming into the lane for him. And we haven't seen the Ashe combo really have an effect on the lane. They're not trying to disengage. Having that mid lane with two ways to come into the side, Zyra's really only good for disengaging what's in front of you, not around you.
Ashe Zyra is also a pretty strong 2v2 lane, which never happened this game. So they weren't able to use their excessive range and poke potential, or even think about comboing the Ash Arrow into Zyra routes, because the laning phase didn't happen in this game.
Yeah, namely, we haven't even seen that arrow come out yet. Good point. So these guys are still looking to make that impact and catch TSM off guard. TSM doesn't have that information yet of when it's going to happen. Pushing mid with 3. Doesn't look like they'll get it just yet, but it's still Ben. Sneaky. Lemonation pressuring the mid lane. Not much movement after, again, we see the 4-minute turrets go down and the game just slow down.
What else are they going to do? They killed all the side turrets. I mean, unless they just all swap lanes and decide to push 2 more and leave the mid lanes up. But at that point, you just have ridiculous farm numbers on the mid laners, which would be high in Dyrus. They have tried to spread the love a little bit right now. After the initial start, you can already see Balls is at 46 minion kills, and Reginald was caught up to 39.
A quick pickaxe coming out for, I was going to say Dyrus. That Renekton looking like a Twitch. Coming out for that wild turtle.
Green.
Yeah, right? It ain't easy being green, as we say. 10 minutes on the clock as we start to tick towards that half part. Dragon, or Baron rather, going to come up in the 5 minutes, or rather soon. So we're going to see if they go for it. I wouldn't doubt it with the speed of the game. Yeah,
both these guys play faster than any other team. The turrets are already down. The gold levels are already higher than they should be in this game. Yeah, Baron spawns at 12 minutes in TSM Cloud9 games. It's a modification they made to the system.
Tier being stacked up onto Reginald. We've seen that a little bit more on Orianna. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Definitely going for the late game for these guys.
At least now. They're just waiting until that team fight approaches.
Well, I think they noticed it will be now.
It's got to be. They haven't done any fighting in the first 10 minutes or so. The Dragon will be coming up soon since it was taken so early by TSM.
Completely even.
But I don't think Cloud9 has a exact timer on this Dragon, so TSM would have the potential to sneak it. It's just not safe to do, knowing that Sneaky's Ash Arrow is armed and ready.
Just about exactly the same gold as minions dying in lane are really the discrepancy you're seeing between that change. Lemonation takes back onto mid. There's the rest of the team coming up behind them. They're still trying to formulate. Nobody wants to make it. 5 seconds happens and Dragon comes up, and we'll finally see these guys start to dance it out.
Alrighty, Dyrus is coming down from the top lane. He's glass cannon Renekton right now. He's got no extra health. He's in danger of getting caught. But X special flashes through an arrow.
First arrow. That's what I was talking about. We haven't seen one yet, and the first one counts.
That's why Cloud9 loves the Ashe so much. First off, he got caught by Zyra, which put a bunch of damage down, and then instead of flashing sideways, X Special flashed directly back against an Ash Arrow, negating the flash, and now TSM might still look for a 4v5, knowing Cloud9 did burn that ultimate cooldown.
Lemonation looks low on mana, but he still has an ultimate. They throw in the shockwave. Where's that strangle? Could he put it down? No, he doesn't. He uses the mana on a grasping root. Does not use the zone. Is it the right idea? Ball's forced to run until his cooldowns come back up. Throws back down the machine gun, looking for his own cooldowns off the cast. They get the last Q down and they get the kill. Beautiful positioning here by Sneaky in and out of the bush, as it was going to be Reginald trying to duke it out with him. They turn around. Wow. Balls comes out huge on this one. The triple kill to turn it, but he ends out the kill walking away alone.
Things got out of hand really fast in that fight. That was 5 for 4 when all said is done. X Special's actually back at the end of that fight. So much crazy happened in that fight. Everyone was escaping at low health, so really the only thing we have to do now is see where the gold went. 3 kills to Wild Turtle is massive, but 2 kills to Balls is just as important. We heard all those guys talk about Balls potentially being an MVP, and him getting the gold from that fight, while also being the primary sustained damage source for Cloud9, I think benefits them more than the 3 kills to Wild Turtle.
What an interesting fight. I thought they were actually going to lose that one, with Lemonation using his last bit of mana to cast his Grasping Roots instead of the Stranglethorn. So, overall, good K. He's Lemonation. Don't doubt that. 12 minutes, 30 seconds coming into this. 5 to 4 after that little scuffle, but the gold is still very close. And again, the Dragon being contested.
Might as well go right back. There's a sneaky Ash Arrow available if anyone from TSM gets too curious for where they go, and they might try to go for a fight here right away.
Locked him down high without that death mark to put on, but they are still able to drop X Special. Just a little too close there.
TSM needs to be more present of what that Ash Arrow accomplishes for Cloud9, because TSM was not grouped up as 5. They had 2 people pushing the bottom lane with 3 semi-contesting the Dragon, and that just lines herself up for getting hit by another Ash Arrow. 2 for 2 Sneaky is.
It's such a low cooldown. You can see that was not taken into consideration by TSM there. They had just, that fight probably felt a few seconds ago for them.
Well, what had happened is since Sneaky used the Ash Arrow at the very start of the fight, before the real team fight happened, in TSM's minds, I think they thought it was up, but these guys fight all the time.
Meteo's coming from the side of the corner there, right onto the turret. There's a pretty good wave, but they're able to thwart it off. The ball almost taken low. He did get the expunge down, but they turned it back. A kill for a kill. Bet the shutdown going to Meteos.
And that is a big blob. We've seen what they can do, like Voyboy had in the last game. The counter push now coming in for TSM. We don't have time for analysis here, Rib. They're pushing mid.
Wild Turtle still down for 15 seconds. We've talked about how big of a pressure on the turret that volley is for Ash, but a 4-member party for TSM is able to thwart that turret.
And Sneaky's Ash Arrow is coming up sooner rather than later. He's only got about 20 seconds left on it.
That's crazy.
High's Zed ultimate would be up if anyone wanted to stop from getting this blue buff, but finally a little bit of breathing room after seemingly 3 minutes of straight fighting.
One of the things we see a lot of these teams, you know, that don't have gap closers is they can't follow up, but Cloud9 can. They have that Meteos, they have the High, and they have Sneaky, and it's been really high to initiate after the arrow. We got to figure out who could get hit first. We saw Special go down right away. What I'm trying to say is how can TSM position for these fights so that doesn't happen all the time?
I want to say Dyrus should try to be in the front, but if we look at what he's building, he's not positioning to do so.
Right.
He's going full offensive items. He's essentially got about 1 million longswords in his inventory right now with all the items he's been upgrading. And nothing like a Sunfire Cape or even a Warmogs that you might want to sit in front, because as is now, whoever gets hit by an Ash Arrow, if TSM doesn't mob past the Ash Arrow, they're going to die.
Oh, there's the death mark down. The shield is on him, though. It's going to give him a bit, but the Ignite was there as well. Will the odd one be able to finish? It looks like he will. He gets the Q down, and the shutdown as well. They're going back and forth today.
Overall, that is a gold lead for TSM in that fight, because they got the assist pool coming into that one. As long as Cloud9 doesn't do anything extra, since it was a 2v1 in the top lane, that's actually benefiting TSM.
This is definitely something we haven't really seen a team do to Cloud9. When Cloud9 gets kills, usually they get more, but TSM is directly answering back when these kills happen. They're on the back of each other, giving that support. It's that, you know, the Reginald with Odd One behind him, just like we're used to.
What sucks for TSM is that Reginald is so far behind.
That does hurt.
77 minions, and he's getting focused. I think Cloud9 is doing this intentionally. Even though he gave himself up for an Odd One kill, doesn't really care. He's keeping Reginald down as best as possible. Sure, you can give Reginald an assist, but yeah, you kill them. And as long as Reginald's off in the corner here, at his base, farming, TSM as a team is not making cohesive moves to come back in this game.
They did lock in that Elise first, so they were looking at getting Ryze possibly, and then Reginald plays Kennen, so everything else was focused out for him. Orianna's not an uncomfortable champion, but it's not at the top of his list right now, so maybe they made sure to focus that out. Once you shut down Reginald, you shut down the calls.
Absolutely, and the calls need to happen right now for TSM because Cloud9 is accumulating a lead and trying to push in. Hawkshot goes out, they see Dyrus approaching, they're going to get as much damage on this turret as possible.
Oh, that minion just stepping forward to body block. He would have had the grab on elimination. They try the flash box from Expresso. The Flay kind of missing though, as High perfectly got out. The reinitiation. This is the Ashe Zyra combo, but a focus coming in from Dyrus with all that damage he's had so far. Able to take one out. The expunge not enough to Lemon, and a back and forth once again.
Really good fights that have been happening here. As soon as an Ashe Arrow lands, yes, X Special dies, but you have to pile forward and go in there. And that's why we saw Dyrus flashing, and that's why we saw Wild Turtle flashing in, because they were trying to support the member who got hit by an Ashe Arrow, and TSM needs to do that for the rest of this game.
This is really the first time we're seeing Balls and Reginald head off mid. It's going to be mid turret is up, so Balls is definitely in a more safe position here. The backs coming in, and the towns, as Doublelift said, coming in for these guys. Cloud9, Blade of the Rune King onto High, so he's looking to get those executes and impact plays out even more now in the 1v1s. The Archangel Staff for Balls coming out, not yet built up, actually onto Reginald, so both of those going for the Seraph.
The goal in this game is actually really interesting as well, because even though we see a 2,000 lead for Cloud9, the matchup between Dyrus and High is even in gold. Wild Turtle and Sneaky are even in gold. You see the advantages coming with Balls being about 800 ahead of Reginald if we're comparing them as top laners.
Yeah.
And then Meteos specifically is nearing 6,000 gold, which is just as much as anyone else in this game. He's over 1,200 gold ahead of the Odd One. And that's going to be a huge impact as Cloud9 looks to dive in with an Ashe Arrow in these big fights.
We have seen just about zero counter jungling coming from these guys. It's been all about what is team-oriented and object-oriented this game. Each one today showing us a little bit of a different strategy that these guys have. 4 turrets on the map, or off of the map, I should say, for TSM means their vision is dwindling even more, so the wards are going to have to become more apparent. Their blue side is completely blacked out right now, and it's Cloud9 wards in the bottom half of their jungle.
And I actually wonder when Cloud9 is going to pick up on Oracles and start controlling even more of this, because if you can deny a team's vision, it actually makes Ash arrows easier to land because you get less tip-off time of it coming in, and that's how Sneaky's gotten 3 kills on X Special.
That would have been a really dangerous engage if they chose to go for that. It seemed a little bit crazy for the positioning they had.
They were definitely thinking about it, but now there's actually a potential of Cloud9 clamping in around TSM. This is good positioning for TSM. They're staying together, so if someone gets hit by an Ash arrow, people can move in front of him for defense instead of being split up in squads where they're more vulnerable.
Yeah, you can actually see that Dyrus is just placing himself in front all the time. Going down towards Dragon, well, he's actually going to push the mid turret here, so they may have a bit of miscommunication. They have that arrow. Zyra's in the front as well.
And this fight is where Cloud9 wants to go. The strangle throws from Zyra takes up this whole area.
Locks down the odd one. He's been having a bit of trouble this game. He's going to be forced to repel soon. He gets hit up quite hard. Balls and Sneaky in the backline. Full HP. Here come the deeps. They go to lockdown special. The shockwave only places them around for a quick second. High to go in on the fight. Meteos with the second engagement. The odd one very low. He forced to repel and get back down, so he's only been running with Dyrus in the fight.
Meteos was fearless near the end of that fight, and the chase just gets his Dyrus, but nobody trusted it. That was a 4-for-1 from Cloud9, and even though the Stranglethorns didn't knock up people from TSM, it pushed them straight back, and it meant TSM couldn't counterattack like they wanted to. That specific choke point between the Dragon where TSM was funneling is exactly what Cloud9 wanted in that engagement.
A Dragon again going over to Cloud9 here as they pick it up around 20 minutes, so we'll see that 26-23 coming up for another one. The global gold starts to definitely be a pressure on TSM now. 4,000 in the lead for C9.
20 kills at 20 minutes. This is the exciting type of game we like to see from the first place by a long shot, and then recently third place team in TSM battling for playoff position here. Runic Bulwark is the big item here for Meteos, because we look at the odd one, he doesn't even have his Aegis of the Legion yet. Aside from all the team fight positioning, just the value of stats in these team fights is so impactful for Cloud9 right now.
A lot of those stats we're talking about are being built up as well. The Catalyst doesn't even have the blasting wand to synergize in the full rod, so I don't know how much Reginald is sitting on. The rod will be finished when he backs at least. He has the 1,300 gold that he's still building towards, so for 21 minutes, that rod's still going to take a bit of time to stack up, so depending on where they want that to be, I don't think TSM is going to be engaging too much soon. Or I mean, sorry, Cloud9 is going to be engaging
I really wonder if Balls even cares that much about the stacking bits for Rod of Aegis. He really wants the Seraph's Embrace first, which is the reason he'd complete his Archangel step first. There's also a chance he could just go for Banshee's Veil. Sure, everyone goes Rod of Aegis on Rise, but if he wants to have a little bit of extra safety, he could always go with that. He's got options.
The Shockwave's the only thing that stopped him from throwing another Q in that fight. Really didn't do that much damage, so that would really mean that they just get to wreak more havoc. Blade of the Rune, not finished up yet. The Hex Drinker coming out first, coming in for Dyrus. It was finished, as we said before, on high. So Dyrus, although he was fighting in lane and building, like we said, Glass Cannon, he's realized he needs to start building for the team now to be Renekton.
And every Renekton needs to build a couple defensive items at some point. It's just a matter of how farmed you think you are and how much damage you can get away with building. Dyrus has went really far into the offensive itemization here, and he's been dying a little bit early in these teamfights. There's so much AoE that flies out just incidentally in these Cloud9 teamfights. Dyrus needs to be able to slice through that and get to Sneaky. If he doesn't have enough tankiness, he's not going to do his job on Renekton.
So we got Wild Turtle in the bottom lane farming. As you see, the pressure may come in towards the mid. They have a good wave, and they have enough to clean it out here. Or not, again, I thought that was Twitch in the bottom lane. It's Renekton, it's Dyrus. I'm just looking at the mini-map. A shockwave onto Sneaky! Oh, it hits Balls up high in the face as he flashes away! And it looks like they're going to have to disengage on this one.
At least the Cocoon didn't lock him down, because that would have been instant death for Sneaky. And both teams actually did a good job of protecting the person who got caught as Meteos tries to re-engage.
That was a pretty sick mid-air flay coming in, but it's not going to be enough as Meteos turns around. Cook's down special. It looks like Dire is trying to do what he can. He is still a bit of a tank. We'll see how much the death mark does. Not much. Flash in from Wild Turtle. He does still not. No, he doesn't have Expunge ready. He's got to do the auto attack damage. He goes advanced, but the Ignite takes him down. They continue the fight. Looking good for both teams at 2-2 with red blinkers on the junglers.
And Reginald can speed himself up a little bit here. They want to chase, but it's 2-2. They decide, everybody calm down. I think TSM is okay with this one. I think they are with that fight. That was very close. And again, these back and forth team fights are awesome.
The Bulwark finished on the side of Meteos. The Aegis coming out for the odd one as they're getting very close to having the same build. Same thing with the Ryze and the Orianna. The Seraphs coming up as well as the Rod of Ages being built. I think the Rod of Ages will come in. Probably not for Ori though. Might see some more pen damage. So 14-10, 24 minutes into this one. Everybody is kind of leveling out in the item builds, but the 4,000 gold lead is being held by Cloud9. Those objectives in their favor. 4
turrets to 2 is a very large play in this game. And just slightly better farming. A lot of it just coming from... no, it's pretty even farming now that I'm doing the count, because the 40 minion kills that Meteos has over the odd one are made up by the 30 that Dyrus has over high. So it's just in the objectives and the kills right now. These teams are close for him. Even these team fights, Meteos is going... He's doing the most in and out of anyone else. Does the initiation, somehow manages to escape, and he'll always have that second elastic slingshot that seems to come in and make a big difference, and it's what's been catching TSM a little bit off guard near the end of these fights.
I gotta consider that it's gonna start going in Cloud9's favor soon. Balls is 3-0-5. His Seraphs is finished. He's bought some Negatron as well to keep himself even tankier in these fights, and he didn't get any harassment in the beginning. He was in that bottom lane farming when Reginald was constantly getting picked on in that top lane, so I don't think we've really seen the power that has come from that bottom lane yet.
No, and once Balls finishes his Spirit Visage, the cooldown reduction is such a ridiculous damage increase for Ryze. It's what is the difference between him having to wait 1, 2, or 3 seconds between spell rotations or just machine gunning indefinitely. And once he gets that, he raises his threat value by so much and will actually make Dyrus' target prioritization very confusing, because you're now dealing with both Balls and Sneaky as kind of mid or backline damage dealers.
And as you would expect, he himself, Balls getting fed the blue buff right now. Look at the 80 carry builds. Looks like it'll be different on both sides, and maybe a Rush Last Whisper coming in for Wild Turtle here, as he has the Infinity Edge and the Zeal. The Static Civ choice coming in for Sneaky to assist with what split pushing they can do, and that volley continuous.
He not only has the crit stacking passive from Ashe, he's got the Static Shiv, which by the way can crit to be the 200 damage. It's actually a pretty cool item on Ashe, even though Sneaky builds it every single game because he likes it more than Phantom Dancer. It's especially good on Ashe.
It's a very little upgrade in damage, especially once it's purchased as well. It can catch a lot of people off guard. 4-2 in those turrets still. The game, again, slowing down. These teams are realizing that we're coming out 2-2 in fights. What's the way we can come out with an ace? Finally push an objective now. Cloud9, this is the prep of knowing when Dragon's up. You have even 15 seconds, even 5 seconds ahead of time. The movement's already too late if you're going there.
This was just Cloud9 knowing the timer and knowing that they had the turret advantage, which is why TSM didn't have the positioning on the map to even think about that one. On top of that, the team fights in the Dragon Pit were a bad idea for TSM because that was exactly the spot on the map where Cloud9 had wanted to fight them in the past. So that's just exactly why TSM gave it up.
You don't want to do this, High. He is just sitting out in the wings. He kind of does. They are looking for this. He's waiting, actually. It's going to be Meteos coming on the backside. There is the Hawk shot. There it is. They go down onto Reginald. He's like, hey, Turtle on the backside. Wow, we got hit. Oh, unfortunate.
I think they killed them blind there. I believe Wild Turtle had used his ambush to be invisible, but because the Ashe Arrow exploded, everyone just started using their AoE effects on top of him and just killed him. Brilliant choice by Cloud9, getting the 2 catches because, again, TSM had split up. They weren't staying together. They could not protect against the Ashe Arrow, and now the Baron Dance is on.
A very risky move. 2 top with really 0 protection or an escape to have a Twitch and an Orianna. Baron given now 27 minutes to Cloud9, and with the lead, this means spells trouble for TSM only.
A lot of trouble. Yes, the ultimates are down for Cloud9, but they're coming up pretty soon. The next time the Ashe Arrow is up, Cloud9 might just go. Let's see, let's bounce. has 38 seconds. Ash Arrow's got 36 seconds. Balls' ultimate's got 17. They're going to go not on this wave, but on the next if they decide to not go back and shop after all that Baron Gold. They got a lot of Baron Gold, though.
Every single cooldown is about 90 seconds or under that minute and a half for Cloud9. There's 150-second cooldowns for ults on TSM, so Cloud9 just has the potential for continuous fighting with the ultimates they've brought to the game and their champions.
Their pacing can be accelerated, and in a
ridiculous
game where both these teams average the fastest games in the league, it's good to get quick pacing because you know there's going to be a lot of team fights. Now it's actually a moment where TSM needs to take advantage of this pacing since Cloud9 had a little bit of a shop window, but they couldn't make it up in time.
28 minutes onto this, 16-10 means TSM, like we said, still finding the kills, but no movement after that. They can't adapt to which way the fights are going, but neither can Cloud9. TSM's been able to stall that pressure out, and especially with Baron right now, Cloud9 needs to start doing a little bit more.
And it's still, we haven't touched on it in a while, keeping Reginald shut down this entire game has been monumental in Cloud9's comeback here. Reginald's trying to get ability power so he can land shockwaves, but in turn gives himself no defenses against High's Zed. Most Oriana's against this matchup will try to get his Zanya's Hourglass very early in the game. Reginald hasn't had that option because he needs the ability power if they want to have any chance bursting anybody out in these team fights.
And that's already very scary. The Guardian Angel coming out for High here. Like Kobe said, you know, for the 4 seconds of stasis, kind of act like a tank. People are waiting for you to come up. That's not damage being done. That's a result of what you get in a tank in a fight. So that's huge for High and his ability to dive into these fights. It looks like they white run it right under the turret. Meteos to the backside. Let's bounce on the back. The command shockwave, again, only being utility to bounce people around. But Reginald is still focused. Like you said, Jack, he doesn't have the protection after that. They continue the fight. It's going to be the inhibitor in their eyes, but they want the kill first.
High dove through the screen to assassinate Wild Turtle in that fight. Dyrus got hit by the Ash Arrow and just not killed, but pushed back far enough.
Oopsies.
That was fast.
Dyrus taking him down real quick. The odd one getting away with a sliver of health there. It's because he didn't have a broom. The best way to take out a spider is a broom.
With some home guard boots, too.
With some home guard boots.
That was a nice little kill, but it's not enough. That was not the fight TSM wanted here. I gotta say, Cloud9, as they seemingly always do, once they have that edge, they just hammer it home and take a strong advantage in this game.
They're going to make sure they deny every resource they can here. TSM does have a few wards in their jungle, so it's only going to let them know that we lost that experience in our camps. Right now, TSM, Odd One, and Divers pressing up the mid lane. They have not taken the mid turret down yet. 30 minutes in. Looks like they may have it in their hands here, though. They're going to have to tank it.
Yeah, they'll get it back.
Get the spider tank.
Spider tank, being nice, friendly. Saving TSM a bit of trouble.
Oh, lock him up.
He's not going to stop it. That's the support. Oh my god, did he stop it? No.
No way. Yeah, he did. They can't get in. All right, so elimination coming up. And the power of Zyra.
The power of fear that Lemon Nation can put in an enemy just by walking up and pretending he has more than Zach for backup.
That's also another thing that TSM hasn't been outside their base yet. If they had wards there and a few river wards, that would have been a turret down and them waltzing out like it was nothing.
But because TSM's been pushed back to their base for so long, they just didn't have the knowledge. And it's fair because the things that have gotten Cloud9 advantage in this game have been those off-man protections. They didn't know that there wasn't an Ash Arrow barreling down the mid lane that they couldn't see that was going to hit them and allow the rest of Cloud9 to stop them, which is why they just had to pull off that turret early.
And with the range, you know, you got to consider that Sneaky's arrows, they've pretty much been point blank.
He hasn't missed one.
No, TSM is like, hey, we're right here, and Sneaky's like, okay, if you just get me 5 yards closer and I'll nail this. He hasn't tried to hit any crazy arrows. They're always for sure.
And TSM doesn't want to wait to get arrowed, which is why Dyrus went out in front, but now they're even more danger than ever.
A lot of utility. There's the arrow onto Dyrus. Oh, it's Meteos once again, all the way across the inhibitor turret. They're going to get huge damage onto this one. The Odd One tries to get back. They are peeling as well as fighting with High right now. Towards the back line, Sneaky has all the HP that he needs in this fight. They're going onto the Nexus turrets, and that is going to be game.
5-4-0, 32-minute, 30-second game, a fast one for Cloud9, and they show once again why they have the best record in the history of the LCS so far. Dominating performance once they had an edge.
Getting the champions that they have consistently used, showing teams their tendencies, and still able to come out on top with a win.
Those team fights are so cool to watch for Cloud9. They always follow up at exactly the right time. They get the double knockups from Let's Bounce to the Stranglethorns knockup, and everything is just in such good sync when you watch this team fight.
It really worked in their favor, I think, being on purple side this time. That's not something you hear every day, right? They had constant control of the blue. Reginald was forced to top lane, so Reggie never gets blue. They always get the pressure Reggie and keep pressure on blue. Balls farms his face off in the bottom lane, has another 4-1 and 10 game in the end.
And even if we take it back to the picks and bans, TSM wasn't able to take advantage of it just because the depth of Cloud9's champions, there was too much of them that they were fearful of, so TSM ended up banning out themselves a little bit in that one. Reginald on Orianna and Darius on Renekton, while they're good champions, aren't the ones that they necessarily wanted, so great performance there by Cloud9 from all facets of the game.
And we got to consider the call in the beginning, the switch up of the lanes, Darius, building for himself, which is according, people build for themselves in lane, but like you said, a little too deep into that glass build for a Renekton and not enough tank early.
Well, he went 5-2. He was by far the most farm on TSM in that game. He actually had 2,000 more gold than even Wild Turtle. He was the one who had to carry that, but that's not exactly what you want to do. If they could have somehow found ways to get the farm onto Reginald or onto Wild Turtle, Darius is great and he has carried in the past, but that's when he's on Jace. That's when he's on the carry champions. That's not what he does on Renekton. The farm needed to be in other places.
And we'll see how it changed. We see after the very first fight, that 5-4 for Cloud9, where they came out big and really started to sway things.
Well, this was just X Special getting Ash arrowed from the point, and this was the crazy fight, wasn't it? This is the one where everybody died, I think. Because yes, Cloud9 had to go back to the Dragon here, and this was just mainly the entertainment value right here, and it let Cloud9 know where to team fight. This would have been a lot worse if Lemon Nation had enough mana to throw down the Stranglethorns. Let's just wait until they pop in this initiation here.
That's the thing that scared me too, because he did have enough mana, but he throws out roots here.
And this is the point where it got scary, because it was a great shockwave by Reginald. Everyone on Cloud9 jumped in, and again, this was the in and out by Meteos. He got his passive proc, and TSM had to spend so much time chasing it down that allowed Balls to get a lot of kills in this fight.
Huge area of effect damage from that desperate power. Everybody bunched up. They're like, let's hide in the bush. Oh, wait, we're just facilitating this desperate power to come out big.
Yeah.
Then they cleaned up fights like that. That's one thing that Cloud9 is also good at, is long fights.
They can clean up because they always bring so much team fight utility into a lot of these things. So once you win the initial fight, it guarantees you can finish it.
So some of the things we see Cloud9 doing, like I said, tendencies that people aren't really grabbing onto. The Zac actually got picked this game. We were going to say Zac and Jarvan almost made it through. They came out with the Zyra Ashe combo once again.
Yeah.
And it's just something that I don't think you can allow through anymore.
The thing is, we keep saying this, like, you can't allow that through, but then what else do you do? Do you stop the Rumble, right? Do we stop the Twisted Fate? Because those are the things that we've been previously hyping on for Cloud9.
Right.
They got a little bit too much. So they got to take the Vulcan approach for these guys. You not only have to ban out those champions, you have to pick the other ones away, which makes it an even more difficult task for these teams to approach and knock Cloud9 off their first place roll.
And just a quick aside, maybe it's not, but does the Caitlyn play now, kind of tick anything off for you that was banned out?
I think it was just a laning thing. Sneaky and Lemon Nation respected Wild Turtle's Caitlyn. That was his first game in the LCS Wild Turtle back when he got that pentakill. Might as well block him off.
All right. So, guys, we've got to take a short break, but when we return, High and Balls from first place Cloud9 will join us to talk about winning their 10th game in a row. Plus, we'll have the highlights from our first 3 incredible games. The North American League Championship Series. We'll be right back.